Hi, my name is Sammy Burke, Sachet Collies. I'm here with Joe Koehler of Jill Chris Collies.
Thank you, Sammy, for having me here for the interview.
Thank you for talking to me. So when did you start in Collies?
I started in Collies 50 years ago as actually raising them and showing them, but we did have a collie before that, and I always found out that they were the easiest dog to get along with, and we bought a collie, and finally we got a little involved, and 50 years later, here we are.
Do you remember who you got your first show dog from?
Not really offhand, but I remember being introduced from John Buddy to two J's collies, Jim Fredericton and Jim Nelly, and that's who eventually I bred my dog to and started the chain with the two J's, Hanover dogs, and that line.
So why did you pick Collies over any other breed?
Because I always found my aunt had one back in the 1930s, and it was just a pleasant dog to deal with. So I felt that was a dog to, we had 4 children, so that was a good family dog to have.
Let's see. If you had to pick out of all the dogs you've ever had, currently and past, who was your favorite?
Well, of course, I have to say I was very fortunate to have a dog that was winner's dog at the Collie Club of America. And then as he got older and became a veteran, one of the best things that could ever happen to anybody as a collie breeder, the dog went best of breed at the 1989 show in Colorado Springs.
That was Liberty Legend?
That was Liberty Legend. He was the easiest one. I have a couple right now called Joey. He's super sweet. And of course I have a new one that you know, Gino, who's probably 3 years old and probably one of the nicest ones we ever had.
How have dog shows changed since you started?
Well, appearance-wise, they do. It's just like the movie stars of the 30s don't look like the movie stars of the 2000s. So over the years, I think they've gotten pretty good. They've been bred to look a little better. And of course the grooming and presentation, just really showing makes a big difference now, today.
Would you say that your proudest show moment was winning the National Bear, Liberty Legend?
Oh, that was good. That was one of the nicest ones. I think just having your dog and having him being competitive. When you go out with a dog to show it, you have a chance of at least finishing in the ribbons. You can't expect to win all the time, but to at least have your dog, people come up and say to you, they look just like we did today. As you're looking at the dogs, I assume you judging them, you could pick one out that you really liked. I was watching, observing, and our picks are pretty much the same.
See? They always are. What's the worst part of showing and breeding? And you can do those as 2 separate. The worst part of showing and then the worst part of breeding.
The worst part of breeding?
Yeah.
Well, the worst part of showing is, I guess, when you think you have a nice dog and nobody likes it. But breeding in dogs, I think the most disappointing thing is to have a nice breeding and they don't conceive, or if you do have a nice breeding and the dogs don't survive. It's sad as heck to work so hard to expect a litter and you end up with nothing. But that's part of the game.
Now, when a puppy is really young, can you tell if it's going to be a winner? Like Bear, could you tell that he was going to be?
No, I thought he was pretty ugly when he was young. But, all you can do is when you have a litter, you can sit there and just hope that you pick the best one. I remember when I first started, somebody said to me, when you do your breeding, you hope you get better each time you do. And the trouble is, when you're new, you don't know if you got better. You can't tell. It's only after many years that you can see the better one right off the bat. Or you think it's better.
So you think it takes time for a newer breeding program
Right.
to get
I
that
did
perspective?
buy a dog from a breeder. She's not here anymore, and she wanted me to take the dog, and I said, no, you pick the better one, because I don't want you to tell me later on I picked the wrong one. Well, when I got it home, Joyce said to me, how much did you pay for that dog? It was pretty ugly. Well, I'll tell you, when it got to be a year old, it was really, really nice.
So what do you look for when you're trying to choose which puppy to keep out of the litter?
Well, you're looking for a nice expression. And, people would say years ago, what's expression? Well, it's something you learn to see it, what it is. Nice muzzle, nice underjaw. And that it's not a skittish little sucker. Well, that you bring out yourself. After all, if you're a breeder, you have to make that dog. It's just like a ball player. They have natural talent.
So what do you do with your puppies to make them stars?
I think the best thing to do with a puppy is to live with it. Let it live with you. Socialize it to death. Take it every place you go. Even if you take a shower. Take it in the shower.
With your dogs? Okay, we're
but
learning new things.
take it right to the shower door. Let them sit there and wait for you.
So what do you look for when you're choosing what dog to breed your bitch to?
Say that again, son.
What do you look for when you're looking for what dog to breed your bitch to?
Well, you look if you're looking for a sire or some. Well, you look at somebody that's producing nice. That somebody's producing dogs that aren't turning out, and usually the top sire. I'm not saying that they're going to be best. It's what's worth it in combination for you. And when we had Liberty Legend, it was the first breeding. It turned out very nice. And I was offered a lot of money for the dog, but of course I kept it. And I didn't realize afterward I could have did that breeding 2 or 3 times more, which we did. And the dogs were not the same.
Lightning didn't strike twice?
Yeah, it didn't strike twice. It came once, and thank God for once.
So would you say that expression's the most important part of a collie for you? What's the most important part of a collie for you?
Well, being a collie, being a head breed, you want a nice head. But of course, you can't have a head and the body's dragging along there. Everything in combination. Everything in balance. And you look for a nice head. I can remember when Ron Crusoe saw one of my dogs, and he said, what a beautiful headpiece on that dog. And it did, and it had a nice body to go with it. But the headpiece, being a head breed, that is important. But everything has to get balance, is like you said, is the most important thing.
Do you prefer smooths or roughs?
Pardon me?
Smooths or roughs?
Which I favor?
Yeah.
Both. I have no problem with either one. And I've had a couple nice smooths, and you know that. And it was hard to see Kelly. She was
Kelly and Bo.
And even the last smooth.
Lady.
Yes. You didn't want to see them go, and everybody goes. But just enjoy them while they're here.
If you had to own any other breed, you can't say Sheltie, what would it be?
A lot of times I see dogs in the city, and I see dogs no matter where they go. I think the most happiest dog I see is a golden retriever. For some reason, they seem to be bopping along, and they're happy as hell. They're just to be in here.
So watch out, Golden World, he's coming your way. What would be the most important thing you would tell someone new to breeding and showing?
The most important thing that I would tell them is to find someone that you can trust and lead you by the hand, because it's too complicated to learn this all by yourself. It took me 10 years to get a champion.
Who mentored you?
And that, I think, was pretty fast because there's people around all their life have never had a great dog. And if you're lucky enough to get one, you just hope that, well, I have to admit, I had a lot of people help me. And even if they didn't take me by the hand, just to look at them do something. Whatever they did, well, I guess that was successful. Let me learn how to do it.
So who helped you when you were starting?
It's kind of hard to say. I really didn't have anybody. I just, I will admit Joyce was a big help. And when she moved on, I had to learn everything all by myself. And even your mom, I taught her a few lessons.
You taught all of us
And
a
I
few
took
things.
your- But you know, you were a different bird because I got you right from day one. And when you were a little infant, so you got to be 5 years old, and you wanted to handle your first dog, what they say? Let's give you one that's going to make you look good. And that's what we did.
You always gave me dogs to make me look good.
Well, you know what, Sammy? I'm going to be honest. It's the junior handlers around you and Brian. You were my favorites, both of you. There was a couple other ones. Nara, Becca. Becca was a great kid to work with.
So with the former junior handlers you're talking about, once we're in charge of the world, what do you think it's going to look like?
I don't know. I think, it's like everything in this world. 20 years ago, everybody thought we had everything. And look what we got today. Who knows what we're going to have 20 years from today?
Do you think people will still be showing dogs?
I hope they do. Yeah, I hope they do. I enjoy right now, even though I use handler, and I use you if you're available. And I'm pleased as hell because you do a good job. But I enjoy right now, the most important thing, to sit and watch. And today when I was watching, I picked out some nice dogs. And of course not judging them, I saw people judge them, and they picked the same ones that I thought were pretty good.
So why did you become a judge?
Well, I think I had learned enough, and I had seen people judge that I thought they were pretty bad, and I thought I could do just as good or better. And so far I've been judging for 25, 30 years. Not anybody choke me yet or shoot me.
Yeah.
And I haven't really had many people complain.
Not that you've heard.
Not that I heard of, no.
What's the most important part of being a good judge?
To be honest. And not to be, what I had Joanne say to me one day? You can't be bought. And I said, no, I can't be bought. If my mother walked in the ring and she had an ugly dog, she ain't winning. And not to do that to my mother, I need pretty
If your mother walked in the ring now, we'd have a problem.
Your mother walked in the ring, we'd have a problem.
That's all I got.
I'd like to say thank you, Sammy, for asking me pretty good questions, and I hope I was really honest. They came from the heart. I wouldn't tell you anything different.
Nope, I don't think
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking me for the interview.
I think you're right. I don't think he's real.
Finished? I said, would you put it over there? So I went and the cuts, and I got down to, oh God, I wouldn't admit this, maybe 8 dogs, and we're still there. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing all these big shots. And she went up and down 3 or 4 times, and she went to the other end of the line, not where I was, the other end, and she stood over there and she goes, sir, you're best of variety.
I got chills.
Somebody told me I could feel the blood leave my face. You know when you're embarrassed, how you feel the heat in your face?
Yeah, you drained.
I thought I went white. And the nicest thing I can remember when you do the champion around the ring.
Yes.
Do you remember Florence Beck
Sure.
and her daughter
Bernadette.
Bernadette come over and gave me a hug and
Oh,
congratulations.
that is exciting.
It was a nice feeling. I never forgot it. And I said to Joanne, we were talking one day about it, and I said, you know what? If I had won this thing 5 or 6 times, it wouldn't have meant anything. But you know, to this day, I can remember 30 years ago, I can see that woman pointing to me. And it's something you never forget. It's just like when I was
Graver's an honor too.
It's-
She was
it's-
discerning for sure.
it's like when I was a kid, I was on a state championship baseball team.
Okay.
Just one. I never forgot. And I always remember how many of those guys are still alive. And I went to the cemetery one time, and our third baseman's name was Donnie Trent, but his name was really Trenteline. And I went to my mother and father's grave a different way. And then all of a sudden I went down the road and I saw a family plot, Trenteline.
Oh.
So I got out and I walked over and I looked, and there was a name, Donald, 1931 to 1990.
Oh.
And he had, he was like 59 years old, something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or 60 years old. And you say, how lucky you are to still be here and still functioning. And
Good memories of that team. They all.
yeah, do you know, we had, and the man that was the coach was Mo Cone. He was a big baseball guy in Staten Island. And we always had dinners. And and then all of a sudden he died. And that was the end of it was like tradition. It was, and
It's a
to remember,
special era for
I
sure.
remember going down seeing in the paper tryouts for the team. Because when I first saw them play a year before, they had uniforms. Nobody had uniforms in 1945. So I said, you know what, I'd like to try out for that team. And I went down and I tried out, and I made the team, and I got to be the center fielder and
I
a
was going to
cleanup,
say what position.
the
Okay.
cleanup
All right.
hitter. And I didn't get a hit. I went 0 for 17. And but finally I did get a hit and I won a game. And everybody contributed. It wasn't one guy was the big hero.
Right.
Everybody did a little winning along the way. But it was. But I will say one thing. Getting back to college, Ken and Jean, they were, I guess, my biggest friends. And they were more than friends. They were like family. They were like my mother and father who were gone, even though they were close to my age.
Yeah.
And Ken was so funny, but he didn't know he was funny. You had to realize, and he used to do things and you'd laugh at him. You'd say, "What's so funny?" But he was funny. But he was
I remember their kindness.
their kindness.
As a newcomer, they would always look out for me. They would always set up, and then they would find a place next to them so that I'd be able to set up alongside them and to learn. And Jean taught me so much about grooming.
Oh yeah. Well, with Ken and Jean, they got the repeat breeding of bear. There was Gilchrist Legend of Stone King. I think they
Was
called
it
him.
Patrick or
They called him Sean.
oh Sean? Okay.
Yeah, and the other guy was Patrick.
Right.
That's the guy that they couldn't get finished. And even every big name handler had it. Tommy, Naomi. And Naomi said to me one day, better you than me, that I was handling it because he was a difficult dog.
Oh boy.
And I went to the house one night and I realized he was so pampered, he had his own chair. And they're feeding him filet mignon, and so Ken said to me, "Do you think we can do something with him?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, give him to me." And they gave him to me, and I had him for a week. I went to the shows in Knoxville, And one day it was 2 points, and the next day it was 3. And he won on Saturday, and he had to win on Sunday to get it, to finish him. And luckily he did. And Ken was very happy. And but of course, if I had told him what I did to the dog to make him show,
I know that.
I practically starved the dog. But that's what he needed. He needed firm training, and he did show, and he showed beautiful. And Ken, when I got home, he bought me a VCR.
That, if anything dates you, it's that.
And Ken said to me, I know you wouldn't buy one for yourself. And the only thing I can remember is that getting back to when the dog won the CCFA, we flew out, so I had no way of getting the trophies home. Here's these thousands of dollars worth of silver-plated trophies, and oh God,
They're gorgeous.
the gorgeous trophies. And here I have them in my house, and Ken's daughter took them to her house and then mailed them up to me, UPS, the next day. And I always worried about somebody kept breaking into the house stealing them. And well, I did manage to get them back. But the biggest thrill I have right now going to the CCFA, especially the national show, is to pick up that trophy and seeing my dog's name still on it. God, that was 31 years ago.
Congratulations, Joe. That's a thrill.
It was a highlight of my. Oh, the only thing better than that was seeing my children born. That was the best. But I'll still take the trophy.